Hi, I'm Hannah Bardsley. I studied at the University Centre Sparsholt, and this was my research project for the university. I was assisted by Helen, Jarratt, Garraway and Marianne Freeman. My research project was identifying dogs' affective states from videos of subtle behavioural cues. Can anybody do it? So a bit of background, our dogs have the ability to pick up emotional information from us. Therefore, understanding dogs from a human perspective is also just as important. As through a dog's expression of emotion, a human may be able to identify their intentions and motivations. Several studies have attempted to gauge public understanding of dog behaviour, such as Tabby and Gallagher's study, looking at both experienced and non-experienced observers relying on gross body behavioural cues such as tail wagging to categorise dogs' behaviours. However, this study could not distinguish between labelling or identifying and interpreting a particular behaviour. Regardless of the ability to identify a behaviour, can the general public understand the underlying affective state of an animal? Affect is a term coined to describe the feeling states linked to emotion and mood, with an animal's affective state participating in the regulation and modification of their cognition, behaviour and social interactions. Affective state consists of both arousal, the physiological activation of the state, and valence, referring to whether the state is positive or negative. A dog's affective state has been suggested to be determined by observing a dog's behavioural cues, such as ear movements, tail movements and body posture. These cues, however, are not always that obvious. Therefore, observing and understanding their subtle cues are of paramount importance. A study shown here carried out a survey exploring how dog owners perceive their dog stress. The results found that subtle behaviours such as nose licking were rarely reported. When we look at Shepard's ladder of aggression, it is clear that not noticing these subtle initial cues can lead on to the dog progressing up the ladder and exhibiting more aggressive behaviours. If we can gauge a better understanding of dog affective states, then we can improve the relationship and well-being of both dog and human and improve the interspecific communication between the two. Previous research by Dawson and Attell in 2019 found that humans can interpret cat facial expressions from the watching of short clips of subtle behavioural cues. By the use of short clips in this study, therefore, the focus on whether the person can understand and interpret affective states from gut instinct rather than the general behaviour. The main aim of the study was to overall develop an understanding as to whether and how well the general public can identify dog affective states through the watching of short video clips displaying different behavioural cues, as well as to determine how certain factors of the participant's life can affect upon their ability to do so. So an online questionnaire was employed using selected videos collated from YouTube as well as in-house videos. Videos were selected following a specific inclusion and exclusion criteria, and well-known videos from YouTube, such as ones that had gone viral, were avoided in the study so that participants' predetermined ideas on the affective state of the dog could not be applied during the study. A total of 28 videos were collected and sent to a certified clinical animal behaviourist, Helen, who I mentioned earlier, so that they could be individually categorised. Helen used a set of criteria to determine whether the dog in each video was displaying positive or negatively valence behaviours to determine their affective state. The criteria was created using the observations and findings presented from various previous research as listed here. For example, a component of the criteria said clearly displaying play behaviour, such as play bows to initiate play. This can be seen in the first photo here. And the criteria would also state clearly showing signs of avoidance via observable retreat behaviour. This can be displayed by withdrawing from an object or person, which can be seen in the second photo here. So the first one is positive and the second one is negative. Both these images are actually screenshots from the videos within the study itself. A total of 20 videos were chosen for the final selection to be used in the survey, representing 2 affective categories, 10 in the positive and 10 in the negative. These videos were then edited to produce short silent clips, 5 seconds or less. This would be an example of how the survey was presented. So you would watch the video here, and then you would answer the question, what type of behaviour is the dog displaying? So you would answer positive, negative, or do not know. The survey received institutional ethical approval and was created and hosted online by Question Pro. The survey was just distributed widely to the general public via Facebook, Twitter and Reddit, and participants were also encouraged to share the survey link with others to lead to a snowball sampling. The survey was accessible from January 26, 2021 to March 2021, with no incentive offered to the participants. In the first section of the survey, participants were asked a series of demographic questions, such as their gender, age, dog behavioural education level, handling experience, and whether they had a profession involving dogs. This way, a better understanding of the participant and their overall dog experience could be gauged and therefore analysed when looking at the results. A scoring system was created for dog handling experience options that participants were able to select from. Points were then appointed to each option. These points then corresponded to an experience level, either none, low, moderate, or high. A GLM found that age, experience level, and whether the participants had a profession involving dogs had a significant effect on the probability of a correct score, with increased experience increasing the probability of choosing the correct affective state. However, regardless of experience, there was a high probability of a correct score. Being involved in a dog-related profession resulted in a higher mean overall score of 18.6 out of 20 compared with those who did not work with dogs, who had a mean score of 16.9 out of 20, resulting in a significant difference between the two groups. However, despite the overall high scores across all groups, there is still a tail of respondents with low scores, as you can see. When we break this down by levels of experience, overall there is a lower score for negative affective state clips compared with those positive ones, and this is especially significant for the group who had no dog-related experience. While this group were not significantly different from the others for the positive clips, there was a significant reduction in scores for the negative clips. So positive affective states were more likely to be correctly chosen, whereas negative affective states, in particular appeasement, as seen in this second video, and mild signs of pain were less likely to be picked up. For instance, the results showed that for video 1, the positive video, over 80% of participants chose the correct affective state, whereas for this second video, the negative affective state, only 39.8% of participants chose the correct affective state. So people with no dog experience are more likely to not interpret negative dog affective states, perhaps missing early signs of pain or uncertainty about situations. Not only does this mean that they may not be able to pick up ladder of aggression cues and are more likely to get hurt, but also that they miss fear or anxiety cues, resulting in poorer welfare for the dog. With an increase in dog ownership since the onset of COVID and many new first-time dog owners, this is especially concerning during the early socialisation periods. Overall, this study has allowed us to understand that although generally most people can identify dog affective states through subtle behavioural cues, there are knowledge gaps, and this study has shown us where the knowledge gaps lie to a certain extent. For example, there are struggles in the understanding of identification of negative affective states, as well as people with no dog experience struggling the most. Further research should utilise these demographic results and possibly carry out a study that assesses the effect that dog behavioural education may have when applied to these groups of people. Here is my reference list. And thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry I can't be there with you live. However, if you do have any questions, please let me know. My email address is there on the screen, as well as my Twitter handle. So thank you very much.